people around him, who doesn't rely on friendships to feel strong. We're talking about a man who has learned how to stand on his own. A man with no friends is a man who's discovered a certain type of strength and peace within himself that many folks may never find. This isn't about being cold, distant, or a loner for the sake of being alone. No, this is about someone who has become secure in who he is. Someone who's learned to walk his path without leaning on others to validate or reassure him. In a world where everyone's shouting to be seen, to be heard, to be liked, a man who can stand without that is someone you don't see every day. Most people are afraid of silence, afraid of solitude, afraid of their own company because they're terrified of what they'll find. But a man who's comfortable on his own, he's someone who's spent time in that silence. He's a man who's looked in the mirror and faced what he sees, the good and the bad. He's asked himself the hard questions, the questions most of us are afraid to confront. And he's found his answers not by seeking approval from others, but by digging deep within himself. He's secure because he's not looking outward for things that can only be found inside. A man who stands alone and is at peace with it, he knows the strength in solitude. See, when you're alone, when it's just you and your thoughts, there's no mask, no pretending, no need to put on a show for anyone. You're stripped down to who you really are. Now, friendships can be a beautiful part of life, don't get me wrong. There's value in companionship and having someone to laugh with, to share moments with. But a secure man knows that his worth isn't determined by how many friends he has or how popular he is. He knows that a man's peace can't be measured by the number of people in his corner. Solitude is his teacher, his guide. When a man has the courage to sit with himself, he learns things about who he is that he wouldn't find in a crowd. He learns about his fears, his strengths, his weaknesses. A secure man understands that the wrong friendships can actually weaken him. People with conflicting values, people who don't respect his boundaries, people who bring drama or unnecessary complications into his life, those are people who will drain him. See, society often tries to tell us that being alone is something to be fixed, something to avoid. But a secure man knows better. He knows that sometimes standing alone is exactly what a man needs to grow, to understand his worth, to build himself up from the inside out. He's come face to face with who he is, what he's done, and where he's going. And because he's been through that kind of self-reflection, that kind of personal accountability, he's earned a respect for himself that doesn't rely on the opinions of others. It's an unshakable confidence, one that's built from the inside out, not from the fleeting approval that comes from those around him. This is a man who's walked through fire, who's been tested in ways that few will ever understand. He's had to confront his weaknesses, his regrets, his insecurities, and he's come out on the other side stronger, wiser, and more self-assured. There's no need for applause. Because he knows the work he's done, he doesn't need it validated by anyone else. He's not looking for praise. He's not out here trying to collect admirers or followers. He's moved past that phase in life where external validation feels like a necessity. He's come to a place of peace that only he can define, and that's what makes him secure. And in today's world, that's a radical thing. Society would have you believe that your worth is tied to how many people know your name, how many people like your photos, how many people are tuned in to what you're doing. But this man has separated himself from that. He's not defined by his social circle, by how many people think he's successful, or by how many people are interested in his life. His value, his sense of self-worth, is rooted in what he knows he's accomplished, in the strength of his character, and in the path he's chosen to walk. He understands that popularity doesn't equate to fulfillment. He's secure enough to know that real value isn't something that fluctuates based on the opinions of others. It's something you carry with you quietly with a steady heart. Strength in solitude, that sometimes the best way to get to know yourself is to be by yourself. When you take away the need for constant company, something incredible happens. You give yourself the room to breathe, to think, to reflect. You start understanding your own mind, your own motivations, your own soul. And a man like this, he's done that. He's spent time in those quiet moments. And he's discovered things about himself that he wouldn't have found if he was constantly surrounded by people.